really wild. So I just want to welcome you to the Media Literacy 101 webinar. This webinar is an overview of what media literacy is and how it fits in the world of communication, education, and in our world. It is for parents, guardians. I'm going to turn the volume down so I don't hear myself, but I hope that you can still hear me. Okay. It is for anybody interested in building skills in this topic. My name is Pamela. And before we get started, please post questions in the chat as they come up for you. Although, let's see if I can see them because I got the second computer running. I should be able to see it at some point. Okay, so let's go to the chat and let us know from where you are joining us. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here. Ooh, okay. You're going to be able to see what's not happening here, what I'm not able to see here. Now you'll be able to see what is actually happening. I'm going to present to you, there I am, there we go. What are we going to do today? We're going to be defining media, communications, and media literacy. We'll even get into the reasons why people communicate. It's an overview and meant to introduce you to the topic. So we'll dig into the benefits of children being media literate. We'll provide you with an invaluable slide of key media literacy questions to apply in the meaning of media. Who is media savvy citizens? We facilitate the understanding, positive participation, and meaningful media interaction of New Mexico learners. We consult, we collaborate, we design and implement trainings, workshops, courses, coaching for adults and students on site and virtually. So our research is focused in New Mexico. We can work outside of the state. We are supporting educators to transition into digital classrooms. Okay, so my name is Pamela Pereira. I'm the founder and CEO of Media Savvy Citizens. As you can see, I am interested in the world of media. This is something I've done and for over 20 years. I have studied it, and I've worked with students and teachers across New Mexico with media literacy and media fluency initiatives in schools and with learning institutions. So facilitating media fluency, like a language, with media and technology is a major focus of Media Savvy Citizens. First, I want to define media for you. So everybody has a different definition for media. Mine is broad and really coming from more of a big picture perspective, right? It is any form of communication through a medium. Right now, the medium of YouTube, right? The medium of my computer. And it's a communication, and I am delivering information to you. How do we communicate? So, hold on. I hope you can still hear me. I'm going to turn my volume down because I'm able to hear myself in feedback mode. And it's really bothering me because there's some kind of weird delay in feedback that I'm experiencing. I hope this doesn't happen every time. So, okay. So at the most basic level, there's a sender, there's a receiver. And I am sending you information. I am sending you a message. It is verbal. It is also nonverbal. As you can see, these images, right? You are, as the receiver, making meaning of what I'm saying. You're interpreting not just what I'm saying, but also the images that I'm showing you. And you are interpreting and you're decoding. Sometimes you may give me feedback and sometimes not. So these are some communication tools. The medium. So if the media, all of these examples would be the media, right? But the medium would be just one, like television or a book or petroglyphs. So before print, there were symbols, right? And what I find interesting here is that not a whole lot has changed, right? Same, but different. We still have telephone. We still, instead of a gramophone, we have podcasts, we have radio, we have different ways of listening to audio. We have newspapers and books that are in a different format, in a digital format. We also communicate through symbols and logos and apps, platforms. We still go on to television, sometimes through a computer, sometimes through a physical machine called television. And all of these mediums we use to communicate. So, but what's different? What's different is that now we are networked. We are connected. I could broadcast, this broadcast right now is a worldwide broadcast. Anybody can access it. It's also immediate. Like I just texted somebody and said, am I on right now? And they replied and said, yeah, you are, we can see you. And so that's what the difference is, right? And so being media literate is understanding all these different things and how they function in our world. And so we're going to give you the big overview of why people communicate, right? And we're going to get into the literacy of things as well, right? People communicate for different reasons. Some are to inform, to share information, right? To educate, to bring you information so you can gain skills and knowledge. Some people communicate to persuade and get you to think, believe, and act in a certain way. Other people communicate to socially connect with their friends, their family, or coworkers, or a community that they have that they've become part of, right? So other people communicate to entertain. We have movies, we have a lot of entertainment out there, and lots to choose from. Some people communicate to request something, like because they need directions to go somewhere, or they need information from the doctor's office, or whatever it may be, right? Through a telephone or an email. So the reason why I'm talking about this is because a lot of media messages are put together for a purpose, and it's good to know what the purpose of the communication is. Today's purpose is to inform you and to educate you, right? Okay, so let's demystify the media. Everyday media. So every day, kids and adults interact with media in many forms. That is multimedia, right? So we interact right now through YouTube, with the slideshow. We also see photographs. We see words, and I'm speaking to you, right? So all of these are forms of communication that we're interacting with. An average high school teenager will spend about like 10 or plus hours a day, like outside of school time, interacting with media. And so it's important to really be aware and have all the understanding that we can of all these communications and what we do with these media creations, right? So what we do know is that media has its own aesthetics. There is always a message. There is a point of view, purpose, And it's always created by someone or a team of people. In this picture, we see that somebody is creating a message about this woman who is an Olympic star, and she is very excited. And so that is what I'm gathering from this message. But maybe you're gathering something different from the message, because media can be interpreted differently by different people. So I'm going to give you the big picture of the context in which media lives in, right? So there's a content, like inside a video, text, movie, inside a video game, news. So there's the news content, right? There a meme, what the content is inside, right? So it lives with a platform, usually, whether it's a newspaper, physical newspaper, or a website, or a t-shirt, etc. There's also a physical tool now that we are, a newspaper is physical, cell phone is physical, a computer is physical. So there's the physical tool. And then in the background, we have what's running in the background, what we don't see, right? Which is also communication. Algorithms are a form of communication. Coding is a form of communication. AI is a form of communication, and artificial intelligence, right? So all of those are media communications. So I'm speaking to you from a media studies perspective. And because I'm speaking to you from a media studies perspective, I want to read to you this quote. The medium is the message. That is a quote from Marshall McLuhan, who passed away in 1980. He was a professor in media studies, influencer. He wrote a very influential book in 1964 called Understanding Media. And one of the things he does is define media as extensions of the body. And he defined media like not just, like he was saying a light bulb is media, and it communicates something. So technology is media. And this is definitely an extension of us, right? It is either in our pockets, in our purses, right next to us. We are living more and more with these extensions of ourselves. Now, he was writing this before 1980. So it's really amazing, actually. Each medium has its own effects, and they have a unique message, which we just spoke about, and it's separate from the content it mediates, right? The content is what's inside, but the medium, he's saying, is the technology, right? That has its own way of communicating, right? So we think about Twitter, 140 characters. Has its own way of communicating. Memes have its own way of communicating. They have its own language and code, in a way in which we communicate through different platforms. And so now we're going to get into media literacy and understanding, thinking critically, and engaging in citizenship. That all kind of summarizes what media literacy is, but I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into the world of media literacy. So this is, there are many definitions for media literacy, and so I'm going to give you a few of them just to give you all the different perspectives, right? And so it's the ability to read and write in multimedia forms. And reading can mean decoding, analyzing, evaluating, understanding. And writing would be like how we use the tools, right? Like what we say with those tools, and how we create with the tools, and for what we use the tools, right? So when we study basic literacy, traditional literacy, then we're looking at like reading between the lines and what's the meaning and who's the author and all those kind of things, right? And so media literacy does that as well. And I'll get into that a little bit further. This is the big picture, right? So media literacy umbrellas, it's 21st century learning, and it umbrellas different kinds of literacies, right? Information literacy, digital literacy, which are the tools, information, which is like online and how we find information, how we evaluate it, news literacy, visual literacy, images, and movies, right? And it's also umbrella as digital citizenship, which is how we act and behave, and the ethics and security, privacy, all those things that fall under digital citizenship, including safety. So all of those, the media has an influence, on culture and on society. And so being media literate is having all of these things on, knowing how all these things function and being able to use the tools and behave with those tools and, act with those tools in a way that makes us, empowers individuals. The National Association for Media Literacy Educators defines media literacy as the ability to access, which is find, right, information, evaluate, analyze, which is read, study the issue. Evaluate would be forming opinions about the information we come across. Create media, which is like, here I am creating media, right? And acting with that media, what we do. What am I doing? I'm creating a webinar, which will live in YouTube. And you doing that with using all forms of communication. Kids and media, and also adults. Kids who see and act through a media literacy lens are better equipped to ask questions of the media, to connect it to their world, to create media and engage in the world with more awareness, more competency, more confidence, more agency, and all of that is a product of being media literate. I want to go over some questions about media literacy. And these are the 5 basic media literacy questions we would be asking of a media message, right? And so, or a media platform even, or algorithms as a form of media, right? So at the most basic level, it's the authorship. Like, who created this message? Where did this message come from? Who put this together? And of course, that has its own set of questions, sub-questions, but a big picture is, who made this message? Why did they do that? So remember when we talked about why people communicate. So is it to inform? Is it to persuade? Is it to entertain? Is it to educate? Is it to influence your thinking? Is it to change your behavior, et cetera, et cetera? And it's really, media literacy provides a space for reflecting on our world and reflecting on media. Symbols and techniques. What symbols and what techniques hook you and hold your attention? So what symbols? Here in this example, I have, I have a little image of a sound wave, right? Like what sounds in movies, what camera angles, what lighting. If you want to show like a scary, like a scary kind of look, you're going to hold a light underneath you. And that's going to, you're going to dim the lights. There are different symbols and techniques that are used. What language, what headlines are used to, to hook you and hold your attention, right? What is being communicated, right? Also, representation, point of view. This is where bias comes in, right? Whose point of view is being presented and whose is not? Like whose point of view is being omitted from the message? That's something that should be part of reflecting on the media, right? Like there's always a point of view, and a point of view that's being presented as reality. And so we reflect on all these things. And then what I was talking about earlier was interpretation, right? How might different people interpret this message? What did I learn from this message? And how does this message, there's always, it's important to have a reflection when you're, in media literacy world, because it brings awareness as far as the self, right? How do I relate to culture and society? Does this message, do I agree with the message? Do I disagree? Is it, is it pushing isms? Is it not? So let's use an example on deconstructing something, right? It's very often we see things on the internet, we hear things on the internet. And here is a picture of the pilot. And he's hanging outside of this airplane, and he has, there's a selfie, right? He has taken a selfie. Is this real? Who made this? Who's the author? So the source is Pilot Gonzo. So he is the author, actually, of this media message. He's actually a Brazilian pilot, and what I find interesting is that he actually photoshopped this image, right? Because we see a lot of things that may seem real, but they're not. There are a lot of messages that people put together that may not be real. And just because we see it on the internet doesn't make it so. Just because somebody said it doesn't make it so, right? Are they an authority on the issue, et cetera, et cetera. So in this image that we're seeing, we ask, like, how might different people interpret this message? I might ask, is this photoshopped? It looks like it's photoshopped, even though there's, like this person has done a really good job at like creating, making it seem somewhat believable, but like his hair is perfect. He's not like windblown, and this is obviously not possible to do. And so, and so I might question it, but other people might interpret it as this is real, right? And so, that's an example. Let's look at another example. The next example is an example that comes from my home. How might different people interpret this message? So okay, so what is the message? Let's read it. Who does it come from? It comes from Shamrock Farms. That's the author. What's the purpose? The purpose is for people to drink this milk. And so what is the message? The message is that this milk is vitamin D milk. It is USDA organic. It is new. It is fresh and local. It comes in the Smart Fit bottle, and it's easy to carry, pour, and store. That's the language, right? That's the language that they're using. So what symbols are they using? They're using this image of this cow that looks very healthy and cute, and is carrying these flowers that, are daisies or chamomile, because they kind of look similar. They're probably daisies. And, the leaves are green, and the green leaves are right next to the words that say fresh and local. And so the fresh and local part is the part that I'm questioning here. We have to question, what does it mean? What is fresh and what is local? What is fresh and local to me might be something different to somebody else, right? And so to me, fresh and local would be from my neighborhood or from my town, fresh milk that my neighbor brought from his or her cow, right? That would be fresh to me. That would be local. It would also be if I bought it at the local store, but it was, made in, I guess local could also be like, there are different levels of local. So is it local to not just like my community, but is it local to the next town over or the next city over? But this specific milk, and so I live in New Mexico, right? This specific milk comes from Utah. So how is that A, fresh, and B, local? I don't know. And so, if I'm not questioning it, I might just think like, oh, great, I'm paying so much more money because it's fresh and it's local. But, the way that the language is used makes one believe that, it's really just used to sell, right? And so it makes you believe like, oh, this is fresh and local. It's so trendy right now to have, fresh and local milk. But we have different products in our home. We have movies, music, like different media that we're interacting with that we could be questioning all the time. And so I encourage you to sit with your child and interact with the media together, and ask questions of it. Whose point of view is being presented? I mean, obviously here, to me, the point of view is, who is this for? Like, who's the audience for? Sorry. So they made this for people who drink organic milk, right? And so the point of view that's being presented is from the point of view of somebody, it's like somebody who cares about like healthy eating and fresh food and, and eating locally. And, that's from that point of view. Also maybe convenience, right? You're paying for convenience because it says smart fit bottle, right? And so that's like, oh, it's so convenient. I don't have to hold a carton like this. There's a handle. And so, and so there are other questions we can ask of this piece of media, but I've already talked enough. So I'm going to move on. But I just wanted to give you a sample of deconstruction. What did we do today? Well, first, we actually defined media as a communication tool. We gave you the overview of like how we communicate, through which mediums. A lot of mediums is media, right? Media is the plural for medium. And why we communicate. We gave you the big picture context of media, right? Like we're looking at it from the content, from the platform, from the physical tool, and what's happening in the background, like algorithms and AI, in special, obviously with digital tools, right? We defined media literacy and provided the 5 media literacy questions that talk about author, purpose, interpretation, representation, and symbols and techniques. And we practice reading and analyzing and evaluating a couple media examples. We also just gave you the big scope of like why it's important for students to be media literate in this world. We talked about media literacy as this umbrella for different literacies, but it's 21st century literacy because it's reading and writing with media. And so I thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions, you can contact us through our website. This video will be made available to you via our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get more content from us, Media Savvy Citizens, and stay in touch through our website. And thank you again for joining us. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Hi, and thank you so much. I am going to go to the chat if you have any questions and see if there's a way that I can actually see if anybody has any comments. Thanks so much and take care.